After I collapsed during a work presentation, the paramedic said, "We tried every number, no answer." My fiance never came. But that night, she tagged herself in a photo, celebrating family without the baggage. I did not comment. 4 days later, still on Ive, my phone lit up. 73 missed calls and a text from her dad. "Pick up. This is bigger than you realize. It's serious." I did. "And then we tried every number you listed," the paramedic said. "No answer. Your fiance never picked up." For a few seconds, I thought I had misunderstood him. The hospital room was too bright. My mouth was dry, my head felt heavy, and an IV line ran into my left arm. A monitor beeped beside the bed with a calm rhythm that did not match the panic slowly rising inside me. "What time is it?" I asked. "Almost midnight." I had collapsed around 4 in the afternoon. "My name is Konstantin. I am 36 years old, and I own a restaurant called Ember and Salt. I built it from nothing. 6 mismatched tables, secondhand kitchen equipment, and a stove that stopped working whenever 2 burners were turned on at the same time." That afternoon, I had been giving a presentation to a hotel group interested in hiring my restaurant for corporate events. It was the biggest opportunity we had ever had. I remember standing in front of a screen, talking about seasonal menus and guest capacity. I remember the room tilting. I remember trying to finish my sentence because I hated looking weak in front of clients. Then nothing. The doctors said exhaustion, dehydration, and stress had pushed my body past its limit. I reached for my phone, no messages from Claire. Claire was my fiancée. We had been together for 6 years. Her number was first on my emergency contact list. I opened Instagram with shaking fingers. The first photo on my feed showed Claire sitting on a rooftop terrace with her parents, her younger brother Owen, 2 cousins, and several family friends. There were flowers on the table, champagne glasses, and a white cake with gold lettering. Claire was smiling. The caption said, "Celebrating family without the baggage." Claire had added a heart emoji. The photo had been posted at 9:17 p.m. 5 hours after I collapsed. I stared at the screen until the letters blurred. I did not comment. I did not call. I turned the phone face down and watched the IV drip steadily into my arm. 4 days later, I was still in the hospital when my phone started vibrating so violently that it nearly fell off the plastic table. 73 missed calls, 21 voicemails, messages from Claire, messages from Owen, messages from Claire's mother Diane. Then a text appeared from Claire's father, Alan. "Pick up. This is bigger than you realize. It's serious." I answered. Alan did not ask how I was feeling. He did not ask whether I could stand properly. He did not apologize for the fact that his daughter had ignored the hospital calls while drinking champagne under a caption about baggage. He said, "Konstantin, you need to stop acting emotional and listen carefully." The bank froze the transfer. I stayed silent. "The deposit is due today," he continued. "Owen has people waiting. Claire says you changed the authorization settings. You need to release the money before this becomes a disaster." I looked at the IV bag above my bed. "What money?" There was a pause. Then Alan lowered his voice. "Do not make this difficult. Claire already explained everything." That was the moment the pain inside me became something colder. Because pain needs uncertainty. And suddenly I understood exactly what I was to them. Not a fiancé, not a future son-in-law, not family, a signature, a bank account, a restaurant owner who had confused being useful with being loved. When Claire and I first met, Ember and Salt was barely surviving. I worked 16-hour days. I cooked when the kitchen was short-staffed, cleaned tables after closing, answered supplier emails after midnight, and slept on the office couch whenever I was too tired to drive home. Claire came into the restaurant one rainy evening with 2 friends. She stayed after they left and asked why the owner was carrying plates himself. I laughed. "Because the owner also cleans the bathroom when necessary." She smiled. "That is either admirable or deeply unhealthy." At the time, I thought she saw me. During our first year together, she brought coffee when I worked late. She sat beside me on the kitchen floor when the freezer broke during a heat wave. She remembered the names of my staff and asked about our weekly menu as if it mattered to her. Then her family entered the picture. Alan was charming whenever he needed something. He had a firm handshake, a polished smile, and a way of calling me son 5 minutes before asking for money. His wife, Diane, never insulted me directly. Her weapon was quieter. Alan hates asking for help. Claire needs stability. Family should not keep score. Sometimes successful people forget how difficult life can be for others. Owen was different. Claire's younger brother did not hide his entitlement. First, he needed $5,000 to launch a meal prep company. Then he needed a refrigerated van. Then he needed more money because his business partner had supposedly ruined everything. The loans never came back. Claire always defended him. He is trying. He looks up to you. You know how difficult it is to start a business. Eventually, she convinced me to hire Owen as an events coordinator at Ember and Salt. My manager Priya warned me. He has no experience, she said. He will learn. Owen did learn. He learned which suppliers accepted verbal changes. He learned how rarely I checked small expenses. He learned that Claire would defend him whenever Priya asked questions. Meanwhile, I kept helping. I paid $12,000 when Alan claimed the roof needed emergency repairs. I covered Diane's anniversary dinner. I allowed Claire's cousin to use our private room for free. I paid Owen's overdue rent twice. I told myself I was being generous. The truth was uglier. I was afraid that if I stopped helping, they would stop calling. My parents died within 2 years of each other when I was in my 20s. Ember and Salt became the place where I tried to rebuild something that felt like family. I wanted a table where people gathered. I wanted a place where nobody ate alone unless they chose to. Claire understood that longing. Then, slowly, her family learned how to use it. 3 months before I collapsed, Priya came into my office carrying a folder. There are irregular payments, she said. The invoices looked normal at first. Equipment rentals, promotional services, consulting fees, supplier adjustments. Then I noticed the company name, Reeves Event Solutions. Owen's company. He is billing your restaurant through his own business, Priya said. The payments were small enough to avoid immediate attention, but together they added up to thousands. I confronted Claire that evening. She folded her arms. You are accusing my brother of stealing. I am asking why he charged my restaurant for equipment we already own. It could be an accounting mistake. It happened more than once. Her expression hardened. You know what your problem is, Konstantin? You are generous, only when people remain grateful enough. The moment someone stops praising you, you start keeping score. The sentence hit harder than it should have. Maybe because some part of me feared she was right. I apologized. That still embarrasses me. I apologized for noticing that money was disappearing from my own restaurant. A week later, the humiliation became public. I had fallen asleep at my desk after working through the night before a charity dinner. My cheek was pressed against a stack of invoices. My shirt was wrinkled. There was a cold coffee beside my hand. Owen took a picture. He posted it in the family chat with the caption, "Future Husband of the Year. Claire, congratulations." Alan replied, "At least the restaurant gets a loyal spouse." Several relatives reacted with laughing emojis. Then Owen posted the same photo on Facebook. People I barely knew joined in. Most probably thought it was harmless. A tired restaurant owner asleep at his desk. A family joke. But I understood what they saw when they looked at me. I was useful when I paid. Funny when I was exhausted. Annoying when I asked questions. Claire did not defend me. When I confronted her, she shrugged. It was a joke. Your father called me pathetic. My dad has a rough sense of humor. You could have asked Owen to delete it. She looked irritated. You are not the only person under pressure. That became her favorite sentence. No matter what happened, someone else was always under more pressure. When money disappeared, Owen was under pressure. When Alan insulted me, he was under pressure. When Diane asked me to cover another bill, the family was under pressure. My pressure was treated like weather, unpleasant, predictable, and nobody's responsibility. The hotel presentation was supposed to change everything. If we secured the contract, Ember and Salt would become the preferred catering partner for 3 major venues. It meant stability, better salaries for my staff, fewer sleepless nights. Instead, I collapsed in front of 20 people. The paramedics called Claire. No answer. They called Alan. No answer. They called Diane. No answer. They called Owen. No answer. They called Owen. No answer. Eventually, they called Priya. She arrived before I woke up. Claire never did. The day after my collapse, Priya entered my hospital room, carrying her laptop and a black external hard drive. Owen left this connected to the events office computer, she said. You need to see what is on it. The first folder contained fake invoices. The second contained scanned copies of my signature. The third contained documents for a banquet hall Owen wanted to purchase. My restaurant was listed as the financial guarantor. I had never approved it. Then Priya opened a folder of saved screenshots. They were messages from the Reeves family chat, sent while I was unconscious. Owen had written, "He actually collapsed?" Claire replied, "Apparently. Priya is with him." Alan wrote, "Do not get dragged into drama. Tonight matters," Diane added. "He is safe in a hospital." You cannot cancel everything, because Konstantin refuses to take care of himself. Later, Claire sent the rooftop photo. Alan replied, "Good. Family without the baggage. Use that caption." Claire reacted with a heart. My hands started shaking. Then Priya opened an audio file. Claire's voice filled the room. Konstantin will sign once the hotel contract goes through. He will be too relieved to argue. Owen laughed. What if he asks questions? Claire answered. He always asks questions. Then he feels guilty for asking. Alan's voice came from the background. Let him exhaust himself, then ask. I stared at the monitor beside my bed. For years, I thought I had been supporting a family. They had been studying me like a weakness. Alan's 60th birthday dinner was scheduled for the following Saturday. Of course, it was booked at Ember and Salt. Before my collapse, I had agreed to close the upstairs dining room, provide a custom menu, and cover the wine. After I left the hospital, Claire sent me a message. We need to talk before Dad's dinner. Please do not make this uglier than it needs to be, I replied. The dinner can continue. We will talk there. She probably thought I had surrendered. On Saturday evening, Ember and Salt looked beautiful. Candles reflected against the windows. The tables were arranged in a long rectangle. Alan's favorite jazz playlist played softly through the speakers. At 7:30, Alan stood and raised his glass. Family, he began, smiling around the room, is what remains when life becomes difficult. Family means loyalty, sacrifice, showing up. I stepped into the room, the conversation stopped. Claire turned pale. I had lost weight in the hospital. A fading bruise was still visible near my temple. Alan lowered his glass. Konstantin, he said, glad you could join us. I would not miss a speech about showing up. Priya stood near the projector with her laptop. Beside her was Lauren, Owen's former girlfriend. She had briefly handled his bookkeeping before leaving him. Owen stared at her. What is she doing here? Correcting a few lies, Lauren said. The first slide appeared. The rooftop photo, Claire smiling beneath the caption. Celebrating family without the baggage. I looked at Alan. You posted this while paramedics were trying to reach you. He shook his head. It was a joke. That is what all of you say when cruelty becomes inconvenient. The next slide showed the fake invoices, then the payments to Reeves Event Solutions. Then the forged guarantee. Alan's face turned red. This can be explained. Explain it? He spread his hands. The banquet hall was an opportunity. Owen would manage events. Ember and Salt would provide catering. Everyone benefits. Why did you forge my signature? It was not forged. I turned toward Claire. She looked down. Claire? Her voice was barely audible. You wanted to expand. I asked why my signature was scanned onto a document I had never seen. She swallowed. I thought you would agree eventually. That is not consent. Priya pressed another key. The audio recording played. Claire's voice filled the room. He always asks questions. Then he feels guilty for asking. Nobody moved. Diane whispered. Please turn that off. I looked at her. You watched this happen for years. Every insult, every disappearing dollar, every lie. Her eyes filled with tears. I tried to keep the peace. No, I said. You protected the people causing the damage. Alan slammed his palm against the table. You are humiliating my family. No, I am refusing to carry your humiliation for you. Lauren placed printed emails on the table. I prepared invoice templates because Owen told me Konstantin had approved everything verbally, she said. When I questioned the amounts, Owen told me the restaurant was basically family property. Owen pushed back his chair. She is bitter because we broke up. Lauren looked at him calmly. I kept every email. The room went silent. I placed 3 envelopes on the table. The first contained Owen's termination letter. The second contained the audit summary. The third contained formal notice revoking every authorization connected to Alan, Diane, Claire, and Owen. The accounts are frozen, I said. The bank has been informed. My lawyer has the files. Owen no longer works for Ember and Salt. Alan stared at me. You would destroy us over money? I shook my head. You destroyed yourselves because you thought my money belonged to you. Claire stood and reached for my hand. I stepped back. The engagement is over. She started crying. Konstantin, please. After 6 years? I looked at the ring on her finger. Then I remembered the hospital ceiling, the unanswered calls, the rooftop photo, the heart emoji. I loved you, I said, but you loved access. That is not true. You left me alone in a hospital and called 4 days later because the bank froze a transfer. Her face collapsed. I made a mistake. No, a mistake happens once. This was a system. I placed my apartment key beside her plate. My belongings will be collected tomorrow. Do not call me. Do not come to the restaurant. Any communication goes through my lawyer. Alan started shouting. Owen called Lauren a liar. Diane covered her face. Several relatives quietly stood and left. I walked downstairs. The restaurant was still alive. Glasses clinked. Plates moved through the kitchen. A couple near the window laughed over dessert. For the first time in years, I did not go back upstairs to fix something Claire's family had broken. The lies started the next morning. Claire posted that I had suffered a medical episode, become paranoid, and attacked her family during Alan's birthday dinner. Alan wrote that money had changed me. Diane shared his post without adding a word. That was her style. Silence used as a weapon. Owen claimed I had promised him part ownership of Ember and Salt. I stayed quiet until the audit was complete. The final amount was worse than expected. Owen had diverted more than $60,000 through false invoices and manipulated supplier accounts. Alan had helped organize the banquet hall purchase. Claire had scanned my signature and delayed questions whenever Priya noticed inconsistencies. I still struggled to accept Claire's role. Alan had always been obvious. Owen had always treated boundaries like suggestions. But Claire knew exactly how to soften me. She knew when to cry. She knew when to accuse me of keeping score. She knew when to remind me that I had no close family of my own. 2 weeks later, I recorded a video in the empty dining room before opening. Behind me were the tables I had refinished myself during my first year because I could not afford new furniture. "My name is Constantine and I own Ember and Salt," I said. Over the past several weeks, people who benefited financially from my silence have discussed private business matters publicly. I will not insult anyone, but I will correct the record. The video included a timeline, the hospital admission, the unanswered calls, the rooftop post, the false invoices, the forged documents, a short section of the audio recording. I blurred private information and removed anything my lawyer advised me not to publish. At the end, I said, I spent years believing boundaries were cruel. They are not. Boundaries are what remain when kindness stops being voluntary. I wish everyone involved the opportunity to rebuild their lives without access to mine. The video spread quickly. Customers shared it. Other restaurant owners shared it. Strangers wrote messages saying they had also spent years being treated like family ATMs. Some sent only one sentence. I thought it was just me. Reservations increased. Alan threatened to sue, then stopped after his lawyer received the audit package. Owen tried to contact suppliers and claimed he still represented Ember and Salt. They forwarded his emails to Priya. Claire came to the restaurant once. She stood outside before opening, wearing the coat I had bought her the previous winter. "I am not here to fight," she said. "I have nothing left to fight about." Her eyes filled with tears. "My dad pushed too hard. Owen lied. I should have stopped it. You helped them. I thought you would forgive me. I probably would have. Once, that was the problem." She looked down. What we had was real. Some of it was. "Can we start again?" For one dangerous second, I remembered the woman who brought coffee to my restaurant at midnight. Then I remembered the hospital ceiling, the untouched phone, the caption, the heart emoji. "I do not hate you," I said, "but you will never be part of my life again." She wiped her face. "Never. Never." I went inside and locked the door behind me. 6 months later, Ember and Salt opened a second location. It was smaller and warmer, with an open kitchen and a menu that changed every week. I hired another manager. I started taking Sundays off twice a month. At first, rest felt unnatural. Every time my phone rang, my body prepared for another emergency. Therapy helped. Distance helped more. Alan sent 3 letters through relatives. I returned them unopened. Diane emailed once. The subject line said, "I am sorry for the ways I remained silent." I read it, then archived it. Owen never apologized. Claire tried twice more through mutual friends. I did not respond. On the anniversary of my collapse, I visited the original Ember and Salt before sunrise. The chairs were still upside down on the tables. The kitchen smelled faintly of bread dough, steel, and coffee. For years, I thought strength meant carrying everything without complaint. Every bill, every emergency, every insult disguised as humor. Every person who said they loved me while reaching into my pocket. Now I know better. Strength is not how much weight you can carry. Strength is recognizing which weight was never yours. I am not innocent in the story of my own exhaustion. I ignored warnings. I apologized when I should have asked questions. I gave money when I should have given silence. I confused being needed with being loved because being needed felt safer than being alone. But I am no longer ashamed of that man. He was trying to build a family with the only tools he had. He simply handed those tools to people who used them against him. Near the entrance of the new restaurant, there is a small brass plaque. It says, "Kindness is served freely. Access is not. The engagement ring paid for the plaque, a new oven for a community kitchen, and a donation to the emergency response team that helped me when I collapsed. My old phone number no longer works. My accounts require two approvals. The Reeves family no longer has access to my restaurant, my home, or my life. I was not wrong for helping people I loved. I was wrong for staying after they proved they only loved the help. My name is Konstantin. I own two restaurants. I sleep through the night now, and nobody in that family has a key.